On this episode of RevHang, Ben and I talk about the Formula One Miami Grand Prix. Let's do it. Hello everybody, and welcome back to RevHang. I'm Nathan, and alongside me, thanks to the mighty power of the internet, is my good friend and co-host, Ben Bagley. How's it going, Ben?
Pretty good. I'm looking outside and there's a little bit of sun shining through the clouds, so I might be able to ride my motorcycle into work today.
Nice. Fun stuff. Yes, still sunny, still lots of pollen in the air, so I know my allergies are still acting up a little bit. Not as bad as last week, though, so hopefully I can make it through this.
Yeah, and I think I caught your allergies through the internet, so I can make it. I got this.
Okay. I didn't know that was possible, but glad I could be of assistance.
It's the only thing that makes sense. Cause and effect.
Of course. All right. Well, we only have one race to go over this week, but let's just dive right into it. The Formula One Miami Grand Prix. This race is always hyped up every year by Formula One, and for the second year in a row, it has, in my opinion, underdelivered.
I don't know what it is about the US-based races, but Formula One seems hell-bent on giving us a really bad name when it comes to how we celebrate, especially sporting events here in the US.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. But let's go through qualifying real quick. We'll give you the top 10 to give you context for the race. On pole position was Sergio Perez, followed by Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz. Fourth and fifth were Kevin Magnussen and Pierre Gasly. 6 through 10 was George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Max Verstappen, and Valtteri Bottas. It is worth noting that Max Verstappen did not have a time put on the board in Q3 due to a mistake early on in the session. He went back to the pits to reset, and then on his second run at the end of the session, Leclerc crashed into the wall ahead of him and caused a red flag, which ended the session right there. So Max did not have a time and started P9, because Bottas was in the same situation.
Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time a Haas got higher in qualifying because of a crash, that red flagged qualifying session in Q3, I'd have 2 nickels.
Yeah, several nickels. More than one.
Yeah, Kevin Magnussen in fourth really did not expect that.
Yeah, it was a good lap from him, even regardless of the red flag.
Yeah.
All right, moving into the race. Perez maintained his lead at the beginning. De Vries locked up and hit Norris, sending both drivers to the back of the pack right after turn 1. Verstappen quickly made his way through the pack at the beginning, making it to P2 by lap 15. Russell was able to get past Gasly on lap 8. After that, Magnussen and Leclerc battled for several laps, but Magnussen was able to hold his position for actually quite a while. On lap 18, Sainz locked up on his way into the pits and earned a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Perez pit on lap 21 to switch to the hard tires. On lap 37, Leclerc was able to pass Magnussen for P11 just for Magnussen to get past him again into turn 1. And then on that same lap, Russell was able to get past Sainz. On lap 38, Magnussen got passed by Leclerc, this time for good. On lap 46, Verstappen made a pit stop for the medium tires, dropping him back behind Perez. But a lap later, Verstappen caught up to Perez and battled him into turn 1, making a pretty awesome pass for the lead. It was actually quite a close battle there for a couple corners. On lap 53, Leclerc passed Gasly for P6, and then the next lap, Hamilton passed Gasly for P7, and then passed Leclerc later that lap to take P6. That was pretty much all that happened in the race. There was actually quite a bit of overtaking, but at the same time, it was, in my opinion, not very entertaining.
Yeah, you and I were talking earlier that we both took a little snooze towards the middle of the race, and we woke up and not a whole lot has changed, despite the fact that apparently a lot of things had changed. A lot of noise happened, I feel like, but not a lot of actual, meaningful overtakes and maneuvers.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the track. Because while there was overtaking, it just wasn't that exciting. I think part of the reason is that there's really only two or three spots to overtake, and all of them involve DRS passes.
Yeah, and they shortened. Did they shorten 2 of the DRS zones?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Which definitely doesn't help, as we saw with the last race, too.
Yeah, it doesn't help. It was gonna, there's gonna be less overtaking because of that, but also I think it's just with there only being the DRS passes, and then with the way the track's laid out, you can't really fight back once you get past into the corners. And so, while there was a lot of overtaking, they weren't exactly spectacular or risky. It was all just DRS passes on straights. So, I don't know. I just think the track doesn't really lend itself to good racing. But a lot of people disagreed and said it was a very good race, but I am in the camp that was just as, if not more boring than Baku was.
Yeah, I didn't really get a whole lot of enjoyment out of this race, personally.
Yep. Like you said, I also took a small nap in the middle of the race, unintentionally. So, it was just one of those, I guess. But then I did go back and rewatch it to do my due diligence for you guys.
That's how much we love podcasting, is we went back and watched the race a second time, even if it wasn't the most exciting.
If it was... Yeah, exactly. All right. So, let's go through the results, I guess. On the podium was Verstappen, Perez, and Alonso. 4th and 5th were Russell and Sainz. 6 through 10 was Hamilton, Leclerc, Gasly, Ocon, and Magnussen. 11 through 15 was Tsunoda, Stroll, Bottas, Albon, and Hulkenberg. 16 through 20 was Zhou, Norris, De Vries, Piastri, and Sargent. So, another thing to note, I guess, I forgot to mention in qualifying, Lewis Hamilton qualified 13th. Very poor qualifying performance from him. He was just, he didn't have any real problems with the car, he was just that slow. Same with Lance Stroll. They kind of messed up their tire strategy in qualifying, but Lance Stroll also qualified in P18, where his teammate qualified on the front row in 2nd place. So, not a good showing. Also, McLaren qualified 16th and 19th. So, for the McLaren fans, we had some more pain this week.
The qualifying really messed up, and it really impacted this track more than maybe some other tracks. Not for Max Verstappen, obviously. But I definitely felt that for a lot of the drivers, where if they had maybe placed further up, they probably could have maintained their position. But drivers like Lance Stroll, they're not super, super racy compared to a lot of the higher up, but if he'd placed higher up in qualifying, I have no doubt he would have been able to maintain his spot better than if he had been so far back.
I wonder if that's why there were so many overtakes in the race. It's just because qualifying was so shaken up. And then maybe that's why the overtakes also didn't feel as important, is because the people that were making their way through the field were the people you expected to make their way through the field.
Yeah.
So I guess that could be part of it too. But yeah, like you said, Verstappen was completely untouchable this weekend. Absolutely in a class of his own. You could just see that he was managing the race and going at his own pace, and it was just faster than everybody else. Absolute rocket ship. He was in 2nd at lap 15. He caught up to Checo very quickly in terms of, the pit stop differential.
The double overtake that he had on the straight, I thought he was just going to go for one person, kind of like everybody thought, and then he ended up just overtaking 2. It's just insane.
It was insane, like the straight line speed that he had out of that last corner, that he was able to absolutely, it wasn't even like close, he just blew by both cars. It was pretty insane. But there were also no DNFs this race. This is the 13th ever F1 race with 0 DNFs.
It was really
Doesn't
messing with
happen
our
very
predictions.
Yes. It's I was actually kind of surprised it's only happened 13 times, but really I can't think of the last time that it happened. It really doesn't happen often. A Formula One race with no DNFs. Cars are always crashing or blowing up or something, but that was not the case this race, and everybody made it across the finish line. So, I guess that's a good thing. It just meant that we did not get any safety car or virtual safety car or anything like that.
Yeah, you would have thought, I would have hoped that Charles Leclerc actually making it through a race would have boded better for his race finish, but at least Carlos Sainz had a little more luck. But
yeah,
man, the Ferraris are just not doing well. And Charles Leclerc especially seems like there's something going on where he is not fully connecting.
Yeah, it seems like there's some mental block this year because he's been crashing a lot. He crashed twice before the race even started in Miami. Once in, I think, FP3, and then once in Q3. It was at the same corner too, if memory serves right.
Yeah, and he's never been like the best, the cleanest racer who never puts a step wrong and is just consistent. He's always been one of the faster, more riskier drivers. But this season, even compared to last season, I don't know, it feels like he just can't get through a race, and if he does, it's just he's taking it too slow.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with the pace of the Red Bull, and he feels a lot of pressure to be up with them when I just don't think that's even feasible, and I think he just needs to focus on his own stuff.
Yeah, focus on Mercedes and Aston Martin first, but from what I've seen, I don't even know if they're going to be able to catch up to them.
No one's going to catch Red Bull. I still think there's a chance Fernando wins a race this year, but I mean, the more time goes on and I see how fast the Red Bull is, I really doubt it. I don't doubt it at this point, but I am less convinced than I was at the beginning of the year after the first race.
Yeah, it would take a double Red Bull DNF at this point, I feel like, for anyone to even have a shot.
It seems like it, yeah. Like, the Red Bulls have finished... Haven't they finished 1-2 in every single race so far? I think so.
Have they really?
I'm pretty sure.
I thought for sure there were a couple where Perez might not have been right up there with Verstappen, but might be wrong.
No, because I remember coming into this race, whoever won this race would have been leading the championship.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So I guess we might be wrong on that, but I think it's been a Red Bull 1-2 every race so far this year.
Either way,
so
it's still just absurd.
Maybe not, because Checo. I don't think Checo finished second in Australia because that was just a crazy race.
Oh yeah.
So never mind on that. But it's been, in terms of pace wise, it's been the Red Bulls very much at the top and no one even close.
Yeah. Do you think Checo has a shot at the championship?
I mean, I do at the moment think he does, but he needs to figure out a way to either get into Max's head or figure out the car or something. He needs to win. He needs to win more races. I think he's going to do better this season than he did even last season. I think this will probably be his best season. But, I mean, he's kind of just having one of those, we're going back to like the 2018, 1920 Mercedes where Bottas was like, he started the season really well and was even leading the championship for the first, 4 or 5 races. And then, the inevitable Hamilton comeback happened and Hamilton ran away with the title. I see that happening and becoming kind of the standard at Red Bull is Perez becoming the new Bottas.
Yeah, because this weekend, even on fresher tires, I think Max is eclipsing his lap times pretty noticeably.
Yeah.
So if he can muster the pace, then it comes down to will Red Bull let them fight? Will they let them take that chance and let them fight it out? Will they skew towards one driver or another? I mean, we saw how that went at Mercedes, but everyone hopes that at Red Bull they'll be a little bit looser with that.
I think they will. To start out with, they have a 122-point lead in the championship, so I think they could DNF like what 3 races almost, and still be leading. Like
Yeah,
they could double DNF 3 races and still be in front. So I think they'll let them race until they crash, and then that's when team orders are going to start happening. But I am pretty sure that at some point this season we will see a Red Bull double DNF because they crash into each other.
ooh, bold prediction. Write that one down.
Possibly, yeah. Um, but we'll see. It might come sooner rather than later, because Checo's going to start getting desperate here pretty soon, I think, in terms of trying to stay in it.
Yeah.
Maybe Monaco. Maybe that'll be my bold prediction for Monaco.
Ooh.
But we'll see. Alonso is consistently finishing on the podium, which no one saw coming before this season started. Fernando is doing such a good job leading everybody else. Much better than his teammate Lance. He's just outclassing him in every way right now. But it seems like he's very happy with the car. He's driving it to the best of its ability and also watching the TV screens while he's driving around the track.
Yeah, his capability of multitasking while driving an F1 car far eclipses my multitasking capability while sitting in a chair looking at a computer.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was driving around the track, watching the big jumbotrons, and asking about Lance's progress while he was in his own part of the race. It was quite interesting and funny to see that. But yeah, Alonso's doing great. Mercedes struggled a lot this weekend. They had some issues in qualifying. They did kind of come back in the race with Hamilton finishing 6th and Russell finishing 4th. So it didn't end up being a terrible race for Mercedes overall. But in terms of qualifying, it did look a little shaky. And then McLaren had a absolutely horrible weekend, finishing 17th and 19th after qualifying, 14th and 19th, something like that? No, 16th and 19th.
Yeah.
So, pretty poor performance. I thought they were back after Baku. They brought their upgrades, but it turns out they are still not doing super great, which is not fun to see for me.
At least you still have IndyCar.
Yes, at least they still have success in IndyCar and good drivers there. Logan Sargent had a pretty bad home race. Ended up finishing a lap down in last place. Not really what he wanted this weekend, I'm sure.
No, not at all.
But he's a rookie, and so that's kind of to be expected, I guess. Same with DeVries, but I would say DeVries is... I don't know. I was expecting DeVries to do so much better this year.
Yeah, at least all the rookies finished around the same spot. They're all fair. Pretty tight together, having their own little race. So it's not like he's the weakest of the rookies and really sticking out like a sore thumb. It just seems like this is a race that really punished the inexperience.
Yeah, for sure. Nick DeVries has been struggling so far this season. Not had a lot of good races. He still is yet to score points. He's one of 2 drivers, including Logan Sargent, to not score points this season so far. Not been super impressive. He is a rookie, so cut him some slack. We're only 5 races into his career. But with him being in AlphaTauri, whose drivers are selected by Helmut Marko, there's a lot of pressure on him to start performing pretty quickly because there's a lot of talent that is chomping at the bit to get into that second AlphaTauri seat. So if he doesn't turn it around, I'd say by the midpoint of the season, then we might not see him back next year.
Yeah, hopefully they give him time to develop, but Red Bull is definitely still a meat grinder.
Yep, absolutely. I'm honestly surprised that Tsunoda has made it this far. I think Tsunoda is proving himself this year, but after his first 2 seasons, I was shocked they gave him a third, but he is doing rather well this year, considering how bad that car is.
Yeah, and being out from under Gasly might have been a little boost for him.
Yeah, possibly, because Gasly is I think Gasly is just a super underrated driver.
Yeah, there's a reason he drove for Red Bull for a spell there.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't go super well, but Max Verstappen is a teammate killer, so honestly, Perez is the only person that's been even remotely close, and even then, if you really think about it, he hasn't been any closer than Albon or Gasly, where I think he's just been more consistent, and I think Red Bull needed that stability for the last couple of years to help them with the championship.
Yeah.
But in terms of pace, Gasly and Albon were just as close to Max. But yep, Stroll had a rough weekend, like we talked about a little bit, starting in 18th, but he did make his way up to 12th by the end of the race. Didn't get any points, but he did make up some solid ground. And then Haas scored points this week, and they promised that if they scored points in Miami, they would give away 10,000 Chipotle burritos. And so now I'm sure someone is going to hold them to that.
Yeah, who are they giving the burritos to?
I don't know. Hopefully people that need them.
Just one guy.
Yeah, one guy. One guy gets... Yeah, Gene Haas gets 10,000 Chipotle burritos. But I don't know. The Chipotle is one of their sponsors, main sponsors, and so that is the connection there. We saw a video of Kevin Magnussen eating a burrito inside his F1 cockpit, or as a burrito bowl inside his F1 cockpit this week, which was somewhat entertaining.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room for that, I wouldn't think.
No, there wasn't a ton of room. He kept talking about how he didn't want to spill it inside his car, which is fair.
Yeah, you have to smell burrito for 57 laps around Miami.
Yeah, wouldn't be ideal. All right, let's go through the standings real quick in the championship. And first place is, of course, Max Verstappen, followed by Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso. 4th and 5th are Hamilton and Sainz. 6 through 10 is Russell, Leclerc, Stroll, Norris, and Gasly. 11 through 15 is Hülkenberg, Ocon, Piastri, Bottas, and Zhou. 16 through 20 is Tsunoda, Magnussen, Albon, Sargent, and De Vries. And the Constructors' Championship, leading the way, of course, is Red Bull Racing, followed by Aston Martin and Mercedes. 4th and 5th are Ferrari and McLaren. 6 through 10 is Alpine, Haas, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, and Williams. There is quite a points gap between 4th and 5th place, between Ferrari and McLaren. And McLaren, by the way, is tied with Alpine at 14 points. Ferrari, one step above them, is at 78 points. Mercedes at 96. Aston Martin at 102. And Red Bull at 224. So, there's very much a top 4 teams this year. And then the rest.
Well, there's the top 3 teams, and then Red Bull.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, there's Formula 1, and then there's Formula 1.5, and then there's Formula 1.9 because Formula 2 already exists.
Yeah. But it's just ridiculous. And we have so many races this year. I don't really see that helping any of the other teams aside from Red Bull.
Red Bull might win the championship with like 7 or 8 races left. Because they could already, like I said, DNF 3 races. Double DNF for 3 races. And, I mean, that's only going to grow as the season goes on. And we're just barely a fifth of the way through the season. So I could easily see them winning with 7 or 8 races left, which is kind of insane.
This is nutty, yeah.
If Checo can keep it close and the drivers for longer than that, that would be nice. But I don't know if I see that happening either. We'll see what happens. But let's move into our paddock news section. Kind of including our rumor section from last season in this paddock news. Lewis Hamilton this week stated that he watches IndyCar and that he would be interested in driving them someday. And I am all for this. I would absolutely love to see Hamilton in an IndyCar. I think it would really show how talented he is. It's really hard to tell how. I mean, everyone he's got GOAT status. He's in the running for that, for greatest of all time, with 7 championships, tied for the lead with Michael Schumacher. You can't just brush that off. But it's really hard to tell with how dominant that Mercedes car was for so long, where he actually stacks up in terms of driving ability, because he really only beat Bottas and then Nico Rosberg a couple times, and so it's really hard to tell. Whereas I think drivers in IndyCar are really put in their place really quickly.
Yeah, and you see that with how many different changes there are across the podiums for IndyCar. I mean, obviously you have some of the same names that are consistently doing well, like Newgarden, Pato, Power, Ericsson, those drivers, but it's such a change up every race.
Yeah,
And
it's one of those things where in IndyCar, a bad day means more. Like in F1 right now, if Max Verstappen has a bad day, he gets second or third. In IndyCar, if Max Verstappen has a bad day, he might finish outside the top 10.
Yeah.
So
I think they should take the Las Vegas Grand Prix, change it, and make it an Indianapolis 500 style double points shootout in F1 cars.
Interesting.
I think that's what they should do. Instead of having just another super expensive glitzy race, I think they should put the race, not even in Indianapolis, put it at some random oval in the middle of nowhere. Make it super cheap so anyone can go, and just have these F1 drivers go around a circle 200 times for double points for that race.
That would be very interesting, but that's not going to happen ever.
That'd be so cool, though. Think about the
would
drivers that would get a chance to actually score points and maybe get a little further ahead in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, that Williams might have a good shot at winning with the straight line speed it has.
Exactly. That'd be so exciting. And anybody could go watch it.
That would be fun, yes. Maybe in the future, but I'd be very surprised.
That's my alternate universe.
Yeah. Also in paddock news this week, we have rumors of Charles Leclerc having contract conversations with Mercedes for the upcoming years. That would be quite the pairing if we had, I think it'd probably be Leclerc and Russell at Mercedes. I think there would be fireworks very quickly.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
In what way?
Would Mercedes actually want a driver like Charles Leclerc? I mean,
I don't know.
3 years ago, yeah, definitely. But now, I don't know.
Maybe you want a second driver type of person.
Yeah,
maybe someone like
would
Sainz.
Leclerc want to go someplace where he would be a second driver?
No, probably not. But I mean, does Leclerc want to stay with Ferrari forever if this is the
that is a good point.
I mean, he's driven for Ferrari. That was his dream. He's won races with Ferrari. He won at Monza. He's done the Ferrari things. I don't know if he'll ever win a championship in that team.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. And I mean, he really hasn't even won that many races. I was looking at his pole position to race win ratio earlier this week, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like Verstappen has, I think, I don't know the numbers, but Verstappen and Perez both have more wins from Leclerc pole positions than Leclerc does, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And Perez only has like 5 race wins, and so that must mean that Leclerc wins from pole is probably less than like 3. So I think Leclerc's only won 4 or 5 races as well. I can't really think of very many. So I don't know how long he'll stay with Ferrari. I don't think it'll be forever. As much as he kind of fits that brand. I think he will move on at some point. But we will see. That is for the future. Let's move on to the Pit Stop Championship. In first place this week, surprise, surprise, was Carlos Sainz with Ferrari. Unfortunately, he did take that 5-second penalty entering the pit lane, but at least his pit stop was quick at 2.21 seconds. Following Sainz was Perez and Piastri. 4th and 5th were Hamilton and Gasly. 6 and 7 were Leclerc and Ocon. 8 through 10 was Albon, Russell, and Alonso. Verstappen did not even finish in the points this week. His pit stop was 3.13 seconds, and he finished 16th.
Yeah, it doesn't help when you don't actually have that many pit stops during the race.
Yep, everybody pitted once. So, yeah. Everyone got one shot, and Red Bull didn't do the greatest pit stop for Verstappen, unfortunately for him. So as far as standings go in the Pit Stop Championship, Perez is out in front, followed by Leclerc and Sainz. Ocon and Gasly in 4th and 5th. 6 through 10 was Hamilton, Verstappen, Tsunoda, Russell, and Norris. In the Constructors' Championship, we have Ferrari out in front, which is kind of a surprise, but that's cool. Followed by Red Bull and Alpine, Mercedes and McLaren, AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo, Williams, Aston Martin, and Haas. So maybe we'll see a battle between Ferrari and Red Bull this season for pit stops. That would be fun.
That'd be one way for them to challenge him.
Yeah. All right, overtake of the week. I give it to the double overtake Verstappen had on Leclerc and Magnussen on lap 3 of the Miami Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy one.
Yeah, it was just it's definitely the most entertaining overtake of the week for me. I didn't really watch any other races. I did watch a little bit of the 12 Hours of Spa in the first race with the GT cars, but not a ton. I watched for about 20 minutes, and then there was a big accident, and there was a red flag, and so I quickly tuned out after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still gave it to Verstappen. I think that was a really sweet overtake, even if it wasn't that difficult. Looked really impressive. All right, let's move on to our predictions. For last week, we had the Miami Grand Prix. To remind everybody of the top 5, it was Verstappen, Perez, Alonso, Russell, and Sainz. What did you say, Ben?
I had Verstappen, Russell, Perez, Sainz, and Alonso.
Okay, so you got the top 5 correct, but in the wrong order.
Dang it. That was so close. And Sargent was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, Sargent was your dark horse, and he finished last, unfortunately.
Yeah.
My top 5 was Perez, Verstappen, Alonso, Leclerc, and Sainz. I got Alonso and Sainz right in 3rd and 5th, but got Perez and Verstappen switched at the top, and then had Leclerc in 4th instead of Russell. My dark horse was Lando Norris, and he didn't finish much further ahead than Sargent did, so both of us swung and missed there.
Yeah, it's really indicative of how little variation there is in F1 results versus IndyCar. I was filling out my race predictions for the next series of races in IndyCar and F1, and it is so much easier to make predictions for F1. I mean, if I got them out of order, I got the top 5 correct at least. Whereas IndyCar, it could also just be my relative inexperience, but it feels more like a shot in the dark.
It does. It's very difficult to tell. For IndyCar especially, yeah. But let's go into our fastest lap for Miami. Fastest lap went to Max Verstappen. What did you say?
I said Russell.
Gotcha. And I actually did say Verstappen this week, so I get a point for that one.
Very nice.
Driver of the day went to Max Verstappen. What did you put, Ben?
I put Logan Sargent.
And I put Fernando Alonso. Verstappen was definitely, I think, a worthy winner of that award, winning from P9 on the grid. He was definitely the most entertaining driver to watch that race. Okay, let's move into our predictions for next week. In IndyCar, we have the GMR Grand Prix at Indianapolis. This is the road course, not the oval. We have this race, and after this one is the Indy 500 at the end of May, which I am actually very excited for. I can't wait to watch that this year. Yeah, for sure. And then that's going to shake up the championship a lot, so we'll see what happens there. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
But let's go through our predictions. I'll let you go first, Ben. Pole position.
All right, I've got Grosjean here.
Okay, fair enough. He's been very quick in qualifying and the race, really.
Yeah.
I said Colton Herta because he had a very good race here last year, and I think the year before that too. So this is definitely one of his tracks.
Yeah, viral overtake here last year, wasn't it?
Where he was like sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a wet track, and he Tokyo drifted around it and was passing people even still. So,
yeah,
he's definitely had some good moments here.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't an overtake. Maybe it's just a gnarly drift.
Yeah, I don't know. But regardless, he's very good at this track. He's had multiple good results here, so I would not be surprised if he has another one. What'd you put on your podium, Ben?
In no particular order, I have Grosjean, Newgarden, and Scott Dixon.
Okay. And in no particular order, I have Herta, Grosjean, and Ericsson.
I like to see the variation, but I do notice that we both have Grosjean doing pretty well on this track.
I honestly feel like Grosjean has a legitimate shot at the title this year.
He's been in great form. When he actually finishes a race, I mean,
for sure.
Even when he doesn't finish a race, he's still usually fighting for that top spot until he crashes.
Yeah, what if he just keeps getting second place and wins the championship without winning a race?
That'd be awesome.
That would be insane. I don't know how he'd feel about it. I mean, I think he'd be elated, but I still think he wants to win a race.
Yeah.
All right. Winning number of pit stops. What did you say?
I had 3. I have no bearing for what it'll take. I don't remember how many there was last year or anything related to it. I just like number 3.
Yep, I said 2. I don't remember what it was last year, but it's a road course, and 2 feels right to me.
Okay,
so we'll see.
Learn about this eventually.
Someday. Maybe after a few more years of watching the sport.
Yeah.
All right, Formula One Imola is coming up next time around in 2 weeks' time. I'll let you go through your top 5 for me, Ben.
Alrighty, I've got in first place Verstappen, followed by Alonso, Perez, Russell, and Hamilton. And then my dark horse is Pierre Gasly.
Okay. I have Verstappen winning as well, followed by Sainz and Leclerc on the podium, followed by Perez and Alonso going down to 5th place. And my dark horse is Nico Hülkenberg.
I like that. Hülkenberg's been doing pretty well.
He has, yeah. He's had some really good pace in that Haas, so hopefully he has a good race this year, a couple good races.
Yeah.
All right, fastest lap.
I put Verstappen.
And I put Alonso. Driver of the day.
I put Alonso.
And I said Sainz. So we've got some intermixing here of our predictions.
Spaniard power.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. This one was kind of hard to predict, other than Verstappen winning. I don't know why Imola always has felt kind of like a different track to me than any other place. I can't really explain why I feel like that, but we'll see. All right, Ben. Time for your words of wisdom for the week.
Yeah, so this comes down to not necessarily like just splurging all the time with your money, but not being afraid to, trying to set aside money away from like your savings, stuff like that. Just setting aside a little money every paycheck to budget for cool stuff that you want to get. There's no point in getting money; it doesn't do anything for you unless you're able to like make yourself happier or improve your quality of life. So like, why not have a cool pocket knife budget or like a little video game budget or something like that? I think that stuff is totally worth being able to budget for and have a little bit of money to spend on, because it can kind of give you a goal to help figure out your savings and maybe entice you to put money away towards different things in general.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben. Whoever said money can't buy happiness? I don't want to live a life like that.
Clearly, they never bought Cyberpunk for half off.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Or F1 2022 for 95% off because everybody hates it.
There you go.
But we'll see. I don't think that game's gonna recover from its horrible reviews.
Yeah.
They flopped on that one. But regardless, thank you for your words of wisdom, Ben. It is always nice to have nice things and have money to do nice things for yourself. But on that note, thank you everybody so much for listening to this episode of RevHang. If you enjoyed it, leave a like or rating on the platform you listened on. It really helps us out. If you want to see updated standings for IndyCar and F1 or a calendar of upcoming races from all sorts of different series, check out our website, revhang.com. If you have a question about racing or about us, hit us up on Twitter using hashtag RevHangPodcast, and we may feature your question on the next show. You can also follow Ben on Instagram at BenjiMeetsWorld and myself at 2N_squared. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about the Formula One Imola Grand Prix and the IndyCar Indy GMR Grand Prix. But until then, I have been Nathan.
And I'm Ben.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
See ya.